This is the High Calibre Man podcast with myself, Hugh, and I'm joined by Solomon Andrews. What are you saying, King? Wagwan?
Everything is everything. Again, my condolences to the family of the Godfather himself, Kevin Samuels. Peace out to him. May he rest in eternal peace and bliss. And I'm happy to be here with you again, brother. And let's just chop it up. Let's break some bread.
All right, so let's do this thing then, because it's still fresh and it's people are still trying to saturate this idea or trying to get the idea around this great loss, right? However, there is a famous video that came out, the famous or infamous even, the one that was known as Average at Best, ma'am. And that video went viral, and I think that I remember Kevin saying when it got to whether it's 100,000 hits or 250,000 hits, some number, when it got to certain, he goes, clearly it wasn't about me. Clearly it had gone beyond me. And so there is this idea that, like, in psychology, I'm going to bring in this idea from psychoanalytical school of psychology about transference. Yeah. And about the idea that, sometimes people project feelings that they have from one person onto somebody else in a different situation because it triggers that initial emotion. So, I have a school teacher and I develop feelings of anger and outrage towards that teacher who doesn't have the history of doing anything wrong to me, but they remind me of a father that was over authoritarian, for example, right? So I project those feelings, or it could be the vice versa. This teacher reminds me of my father, who was very kind and very encouraging. And so although this teacher hasn't been particularly that way, but there's just something that triggers that in me. And so I project those feelings onto that teacher. Do you think that there was a level of collective transference from many people who hated Kevin's rhetoric and therefore kind of had a certain level of hatred towards him because it was transference? Like, the Average at Best seemed to strike a chord with many women, like, you don't qualify. This is not for you. And women lost their minds. A few men did too as well. Talk to us about that.
Obviously, we are both qualified in our fields, and we've done the research. And the data is in. And clearly, the unconscious collective of the Black community, male and female, projected all their fears, inequalities, repressed emotions, and his issues of self-inflicted hatred and abuse onto Kevin. He became the conduit of that. He became the shaman. He became the one that they could. He
became the object.
The object relationship. He became the object.
He became the bad breast. Would he be called the bad breast in Kleinian psychology?
Yes. Melanie Klein, in a Klein sense. He was the bad breast. Yeah, he was the one he was the bad breast, the good breast and the bad breast. Derek Jackson was supposed to be the good breast because he said everything Black women wanted to hear, whether they wear wall weaves and wigs and had terminations were alcoholic, were ratchet. He said, except them, Dr. Umar, these type of people, I'm not knocking their hustle, but they were saying the Black woman is God, the Black woman is queen, power light on these people. So they put the Black woman on a pedestal, and which could not be questioned. And Kevin came along and Kevin questioned that pedestal, and that pedestal came crashing down, and the emperor was seen with no clothes.
The empress was naked.
And the projections completely fell apart because their insecurities were found wanting. The idea that 70% of Black households are headed by a female and they're not women and they're choosing to be married, and abortion rates are going through the roof, and the idea that a black woman thinks that she can have sex with no consequences. The idea that women think they can have access with no consequences was utterly ridiculous, redundant, and Kevin was able to expose that lie and destroy that myth. That egg has been smashed like Humpty Dumpty. It cannot be put back together again. The genie cannot be put back into the bottle, right? Now, the Black man now has been empowered by this man who became a conduit. The reason why so many beta males hated him, because they knew that they were not man enough to stand up and say what needed to be said to their woman. And in the Black community was the only community in which the majority of the household headed by women, and the energy of the children was being projected. Again, the insecurity, the projection of the mother who hated the father was projected into the children. And this is why all these beta males, these young males grew up with a hatred of masculinity, hatred of authority, and wants to kill and identify and murder other black men look like them. Hence what happens in Chicago. When you're black and black, why the Black Lives Matter in Chicago?
Now, no, I hear that, bro, because there's a really interesting thing that's going on here, and in terms of the argument, right? That like you have in certain communities, right? In the diaspora, so that could be the Caribbean community, that could be in the Caribbean, that could be in the UK diaspora, it could be in African American society, pockets of African American society, right? The phenomena of the single parent household led by women, right? There's a fact, it's an ugly fact, but there is a high proportion in certain spheres of where we live as African descendants in the Western world, right? Where there are women-led households, right? Doesn't make the woman evil, doesn't make the woman bad. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Do you think that there's a kind of thing of you deifying there's a kind of polarity. There's either they're the worst or the evil, they're the single mama, so everything's blamed on them, or it's they're deified in certain spheres, and that the empress has no clothes on, like you can't tell her about herself, like Big Mama can do no wrong. You can't criticize women or even ask them questions. I mean, some women seem very grateful for the work of, wow, that helped me to go away and reflect and look at certain ways I was moving, because you didn't give me the answers that I wanted to hear, but more like the answers that was the truth, right? But then there's some women that they take that as an attack. What say you?
I would 100% agree that I believe, we spoke about this in an earlier podcast, that there's a virus put in our community. We don't produce guns in our community, particularly in America, but our knives. We don't make knives. We haven't got no black plant making knives, but yet black men are the victims of knife crime, killing each other. But we don't make the knives, but we use the implements, that are created by other communities, and we take them and we kill ourselves with them. We don't make we haven't got no alcohol plants, but yet alcohol is destroying our community. Yeah, we don't make guns, but yet guns are the most violent crimes within a small group of people is us, the statistics. We don't build prisons, but yet we fill the prisons. Yeah, because and the majority of homes are not headed by black males, and the majority of women who talk about they're against polygamy or they're against men cheating and adultery, the small group of men, the Pookie and the Railways, are the ones that seem to be breeding all these women. So they're sharing the same goddamn man. But yet they were supposed to be against men cheating. All these songs come out about cheating and adultery. So the reality is Kevin only held up a mirror to the insidious, filthy, disgusting ways and practices in our community. He never said that black woman was bad or anything. Black women themselves condemned themselves because when they saw the mirror, the ugliness of the mirror, when they looked up into the Dorian Gray of themselves, they saw the blackness of their own heart. And so rather than accepting and going to therapy and accepting what Kevin was saying because they made these wrong decisions, they just tried to kill the messenger. You couldn't kill the message. You can't kill the message.
So this is interesting, right? This is very, very interesting. You're going deep. We've talked about the projections. So the other thing I wanted to, or this segues nicely into the idea of the sexual marketplace. So we know from time immemorial, from recorded history, right? In terms of, I always use modern language, heteronormative, cisgendered men.
Hypergamy.
Heterosexual men, right? That they're, in terms of mating, right? Jordan Peterson brought this out actually, that we have twice as many female ancestors as we do male ancestors, because women determine who procreates, right? Women, for the best part.
Oh, yeah.
Women determine, right? And so women have more chance.
You determine who gets married,
right? And that men are selected. There's a ranking system that exists, right? Whether it's height, right? Whether it's physical ability, able-bodiedness, whether it's men of certain standing or rank because they're military, because they're noblemen, because they're kings, because they are traders, because whatever, wealth or something like this. The whole thing about hypergamy, whatever the case may be. So women have standards. It's a marketplace for men, right? But do you believe he invented the idea of sexual marketplace where women are also ranked, or is that an evil, or did he create that evil, or is that evolutionary psychology, or what's going on there? Because he had a method of saying dress size, height, weight, and that kind of made him the devil. And I know that meme with a little sounding elephant sound, right? It wasn't really helpful, but I guess that was show business. I'm sure that was I'm sure that was tongue in cheek. But when you really boil it down, right? When you really boil it down,
I have a PhD.
When you really boil it down, is there a sexual marketplace, or is there a ranking system? DJ Envy would say, I hate men that rank women, and did he even like women, like almost inferring that he was other than heterosexual, which is a kind of like, that was what we call dirty macking. I think that's a phrase, isn't it? Like trying to look, trying to curry points with women.
Yeah, the Derek Jackson.
Yeah, is there a ranking system, or am I barking up the wrong tree, mate? You know what I mean? Like we're in London. Like, am I barking up the wrong tree, or is there a ranking system that men are also, hold? Whether you speak it publicly and blaspheme in the public space, or whether we leave it in the barber shop and a changing room from off the football pitch, or whatever it is, those private spaces where men conversate, or you know what I mean? Is it true or is it untrue? Holler at me, talk to me, tell me something.
It's true. The reality is, in any species, there is a preference to certain characteristics. So the peacock, for example, the peacock has particular color feathers, has a particular color number of markings that look like eyes, and the male peacock tends to be much more elaborate than the female peacock. And this is because the genetics preference of evolutionary biology is that the bigger, like they have these kind of eye-looking markings, and then they have these like more colors, because that stimulates the sexual reproductive feelings and desires of the female. So even in science and biology, you can see that it is not wrong for species to find certain aspects preferential for mating. So for a woman, most of the time women like guys who are taller than them because they want to feel protected when they walk down the street. If they get attacked, that their man can protect them. Women are nesters, so they like investing. They like to be invested in. So when a man takes them on a date, they do expect the man to pay. Some of them don't really respect the man who goes half-half. They don't really like that, even though they open them up to the man expecting sex. But the problem is, Kevin went to the root cause of the hypocrisy between men and women. Women have a ranking system of men. Let's be honest: 6 foot, 6-pack, 6 figures, right? They want a man that's can provide and protect and look after them, but they feel ashamed to say. Women know that they will be submissive if they're given a certain amount of money. So basically, if a man has these figures, they will say, woman will say, I am not going to be submissive unless this man meets the right criteria. But somehow it's hypocritical for the man to say that. The reality is, Kevin would say simple, look, if you don't go on a date with a man if you're not prepared to have sex. He said it straight, right? Don't go, because if you're going to go to have someone to feed you and you can laugh or joke about the guy, then that's dishonorable, right? So basically, when a man goes on a date with you, he's looking for sex. He's not looking for no friendship. And men, stop the hypocrisy. Be honest. Malcolm X was similar. Malcolm X says, when you sit with white people, tell that white man what you really feel. Stop jiving him. Stop sugarcoating him. Right? Stop pretending under the table crap. Well, I'd like to, be civil rights and share the same toilet as you, and and hop on the cheek singing Hallelujah Kumbaya. Stop that foolishness. Don't sweet talk him. Tell him how you really feel. Let that white man be able to open his hand and say, I don't like you because this, and that. And then the real dialogue will begin. This is what we do in therapy. So we're doing counseling. We tap into the unconscious processes of our clients, and we get them to speak for the first time about what the traumatic or the underlying issues are. Kevin was that man. He said, go to counseling. Let's put the hypocrisy aside. You black woman, you wear blonde wigs, you wear blue contacts, you lighten your skin because you think that you feel inferior, you feel attractive. And black men, you go for that image, which is not the real image, but deep down you want a submissive, feminine, and fit wife or woman to procreate with. And a woman who has got a less body count. That's the reality of it. And Kevin just put the thing on the table and he removed the lies and hypocrisy. And for that, he was vilified and became almost Christ-like in his martyrdom.
No, because so you're saying there is a ranking system, right? There is a ranking system, and he didn't invent the ranking system. But what
the lobsters, because Peterson talks about it. John Peterson talks about the lobsters.
Yeah. No, in truth, he does, and talks about lobsters that are dominant and whatever, and like that. Like leaders, or there's a hierarchy. That's it. Human beings.
Yes.
Yeah, there is a hierarchy with human beings. Whether it's society to society, whether it's based on cattle, cowrie shells, spiritual knowledge, priesthood, whatever it is, but voodoo, whatever it is, but there's some sort of ranking system. Yes. I'm sure that even in ancient Africa,
the reality is, what is the number one cosmetic thing in this society? Big breasts. Right, this is what women go for. The number one cosmetic thing on one woman is
evolutionary psychology, though, isn't that fertility? Isn't that a sign of fertility? Like I'm saying, in terms of in a kind of psychoanalytical kind of context, that will be seen as fertility, indicating fertility.
Yes, these are signs of fertility that men fancy. Even white men now want big butt women. When before it was flat bums, because my bum looked big in this. The flatter my ass was, the more European it looked, that was supposed to be attractive. But black men never found that attractive. But now the world's going by the standards of what a black man finds attractive. That white woman now, that's why Kevin said, black woman, what are you doing now? Because you're losing your man to white women who listen to my show and they know what black men want. It's simple. Black men want a submissive wife, someone who's feminine and fit, right? Someone that can.
But to be fair, let's be fair. All right, not you're being unfair. Actually, that sounds a bit weird. But let me open up the conversation a little bit more. Then, I believe that the women have been lied to, like ideologically, modern women have been lied to. And that's what that's the crux of the matter is. It's not that they are genetically or have a disposition to be off key or in denial or bad people, but there is an ideology that makes women entitled or encourages women to be entitled. And so therefore they've been lied to and they're basically living off of a lie. And this is part of the problem.
I totally agree. I think women are not made to be accountable. Kevin made it quite clear. For you to say I don't need a man is oxymoronic and utterly ridiculous and defies logic. You're in a world built by men. The house you're in is built by a man. The tampons you use are built by men. The bras you wear are built by men. The cars you drive are built by men. The job you have is created by a man. The television you watch is created by a man. Everything that frees you from your own biology, sanitation, and limits of even childcare is created by men. So the idea that there's a patriarchy of these depressive.
What's that? Could you say that again? We just lost you for a minute. It sounds like you're trying to question the idea of a unjust patriarchy in terms of the patriarchy that created.
Would you accept that you're in a world by men? If your car breaks down, you're going to cold call a man. If you're in domestic abuse situation and your partner's 6'4" and you're 5'2" and he's beating the hell out of you and you call the police and they send down a 4-foot woman, police officer, you will not be happy with that. So the reality is women are protected, they're looked after and provided for. So the idea that women say, I cannot be submissive unless this man makes me submissive is ridiculous as a man saying, I'm going to act like a woman until the woman proves to me she's woman for me to be a man. You wouldn't want a man like that. You wouldn't date a man who was effeminate and then he decides to be alpha when you decide to be submissive. You find that ridiculous. So the idea is women have been lied to. This is what Kevin was saying, exactly what you just said just then. Women have been lied to. This feminist ideology, which is virulent, which is destructive, which is pushed by lesbians in the first place who don't like men anyway, right? You see, this is the point. They came with the sign language against Kevin. These same black women will say they don't mind somebody who's gay. They support the gay rights. If their son's gay, so what? I love him more than I love the sin, innit? But for some reason, when Kevin was called gay, he was wrong.
That's interesting. Actually, that's interesting.